Welcome back to Naviru Dices, and today we're going to be talking about the best debuff units you want to have in your team. Pretty much going to cover all the debuff units and just let you know my thoughts on this, so you guys can decide, if you haven't decided yet, which characters to pick. Now, what's a debuff and what's a buff? So there's different sort of like status elements you can give and get from the enemies. So if you look at this picture here, the green ones are the buffs, the red ones are the debuffs. Now you can give and get pretty much everything, but Fury is only unique to enemies, only they can get it, which increases their amount of attacks they can do. But we're gonna focus on the red ones, which is poison, weakness, and vulnerability. Poison damages the enemy or you every turn, and that damage decreases over time. Weakness decreases the attack power by 25%, and then vulnerability makes you 25% weaker in a way. So let's say if you have bravery and the enemy has vulnerability, it's like you're about to do 50% damage instead of just a 25, because vulnerability removes another 25% of that enemy's power, you know. All right, so let's go and have a look at the catalog, and I'll let you know which are the best ones, or which are all of them pretty much. We're gonna start with the S tier. Again, they're gonna be split into three tiers as always: S, A, and B. S tier are the top units, B are the lower units. We're gonna start with the S tier. There are 4 characters in the S tier. The first one is gonna be the Queen of Weakening, and that is Mick. Actually, most of those are 2-star units, which is good because they're easier to promote and upgrade. But she's awesome. She basically deals damage to the enemy, and then if this defeats the enemy, she gets to give weaken to the whole of the enemy team that's left. And this is amazing because this damage that she does to the enemy is fixed to the enemy with the lowest attack timer or the full energy. So pretty often you can have this guy maybe left with a bit of health, and she can deal that damage. And if she has bravery, it's gonna be bigger chance that she kills it because she's gonna do even more damage. And then she gets to give weakening for 4 turns, guys. 4 turns is not little. Honestly, it's not little for 4 turns. And because her other ability, her first reactive is tied directly to this, so when the enemy is with weakness is defeated, then she's gonna give a random team member armor for 5 turns. So essentially, because she can give weakness to the whole of the enemy team, any other survivor, any other hero that you use with an ability and kills the enemy, because everyone is gonna have weakness. Basically, any enemy that they kill is gonna basically allow her to give armor to one of your units. And let's say there's like 3 enemies and they kill 3 of them with weakness. She's gonna give 3 armors for 5 turns to 3 of your units. Like that's some crazy good stuff. You can easily stack that. The more enemies there are with weakness that they die, the more armor she's gonna give, and that's 5 turns armor, reducing incoming damage by 25%. It is pretty good. It is pretty awesome, and definitely one of the best debuff weakness units you want to have. Pretty much the weakness queen is this. Now we're gonna look at vulnerability king, and that is Axel. So vulnerability makes your enemy 25% weaker in turns, like he can die faster in a way. So he's gonna deal 500% damage to the most damaged enemy, and then if this defeats the enemy, he's gonna give all remaining enemies vulnerability for 2 turns. And then if you actually happen to roll 4 yellow dices, you can give 2 random enemies vulnerability for 2 turns. You know, yes, he's gonna give vulnerability to everyone, but because he's an orange unit, most of the best units in the game are orange. For instance, when you have orange Dustin, who can change dices to yellow, you have Nancy, Mike, Erica, you have Max. All of these orange units, if you happen to do an orange team, and when you have something like Dustin who actually changes dices to orange, and this guy can then easily match 4 dices, power up the whole team, give enemies vulnerability, and then enemies like people like Mike and Max, they can do a lot more damage and easily just finish off the enemies. Honestly, it's a really good combination because he's an orange unit, which really puts him on the S tier for me. And then if there is a lot of obstacles as well, he's going to be able to get energy, meaning that he can easily cast vulnerability again. So yeah, why not? This is Axel for you guys. Yeah. Next up is Poison King. So we have Weakening Queen, we have Vulnerability King. Now we're back to Poison King, and that is Will Byers. So this guy is a beast when it comes to poison. He's gonna give an enemy a 300% damage randomly, and then he's gonna give poison, right? He's gonna give poison for 3 turns. If this defeats the enemy, then he's gonna give 2 random enemies poison, right? And when you match 5 or more green dices, he's gonna give 2 random enemies poison for 4 turns, and he's gonna prefer the ones that already have energy. And this is pretty good. And he also has 2 really cool other abilities which kind of protect himself and also members with distract. So he's like not that he's a poison king, but he also protects himself and other members as well by giving them regen if they have distract. So this is really awesome for this guy. Honestly, poison is amazing overtime kill. Essentially, if you're struggling and you that poison can do a really cool amount of damage over time. So you can be quite lucky and manage to kill the enemy just by luck, because the poison is gonna kick in after every turn. But yeah, why he's a poison king. Now, next up, he's not really a king or anything, but I've been using him. He saved me quite many times, and that is Dustin and Dart. So this is purple Dustin. So he has saved me quite a lot of times. He basically does 6-7% damage to 2 random enemies, and he gives them weakness for 5 turns. This is like the most anyone has done, can give, I think, like 5 turns. Crazy. And his reactive is also stacking with his active, essentially because he can give a weakness to random enemies. If they get killed by an ability, he's gonna heal by 15% the most damage team member, and this activates pretty much all the time for me. And he has saved me because he's a purple unit. If you take him in missions with elite or boss or enemies, and if you take purple L, she's gonna automatically activate all the purple dice at the beginning of the mission, and he's very easy character to charge. I've been using him. He charges pretty fast, and he can easily cast a weakness and deal quite a good amount of damage to the enemies. Or if there's like a boss, he's gonna weaken the boss by 25%, so the boss is gonna cause less damage on his attacks. And this has saved me finish chapter 11 mission 21, which has a mini boss, which this guy is the saver of that mission basically. So I definitely comes with my S tier, and I've been using him ever since. So he's pretty good. I had bad thoughts about him before, but honestly, when we use characters, you actually realize that they're actually pretty good. And I believe they're about to give him 2 more abilities in an upcoming update, so he's gonna get even better unless they change his and make these abilities weaker. But these are the S tier units, guys. Now let's move on to the A tier. We're gonna start with Poison Queen Dotty. So this one, this damage and gives poison to a random enemy, and then if she defeats the enemy, then he's gonna give 2 enemies poison for 3 turns. And then when you defeat an enemy with poison, she's gonna get energy and health back. So it's a pretty cool ability. But she's kind of like a red unit. Like red units, they cannot really stack together, because essentially don't really stack with her poison ability. It's not like with Green Will, because he can stack with other green units. Because her, for instance, if you take somebody like Nancy requires, for her abilities to work, she needs people with weakness and vulnerability, not with poison, right? And then you have somebody, he's a booster, right? You have Mick, who does this with he basically doesn't work with her with poison. This guy doesn't work with poison. Even Joyce, who just doesn't work with poison. Honestly, there is not really red units you can combine her with. So definitely comes on A tier right here. Next up on the A tier is Dr. Alexey. So this guy can give weakness, and he gives it to 1 enemy for 4 turns. 4 turns is pretty good amount, honestly. And then at the start every wave, so in story missions, when you use him, he's gonna give 2 random enemies weakness for 4 turns. And again, he's an orange unit, so if you mix him with other people, with like orange Dustin, Erica, Nancy, he's gonna do a lot of damage and be quite helpful by weakening the enemies. So that's why he's on A list, because his orange units are technically quite good when you mix them together. Next up on the A list is Green Murray Bowman. So this guy can give poison for 6 turns. I think this is the highest one you can give. And he's gonna heal the most damage team member with regen. Honestly, he's a green unit, and green units are matched together. Again, you can match him as well if you want with Poison King Will or other green units, and he's not that bad. Yes, he does get Destruct and armor, but he's a lot better as a green unit than Dotty is. But he's coming on my A tier because you can only give poison to 1 enemy at a time. Alright, next up on the A tier is aka Jane 11. So this one is like she's like the immune to poison, and literally removes poison from anyone on your team. So if every turn, if there is a team member with poison, she's gonna remove that poison and give it to a random enemy for 3 turns. So her ability kind of, it's like, depends if the maps of the enemies can cast poison, but because she can give it back and literally remove poison from the your team, you don't have to worry if there is a map with a lot of poison enemies. She's gonna basically make sure that this poison goes away and goes back to the enemies, and that's a cool amount of damage. Essentially, if your whole team has poison, every turn she's gonna keep giving that poison back for 3 turns, so she can cast quite a lot of poison all the time. Obviously, she's not perfect for all the maps, because if there's no poison enemies, you might really not want to get her. But she also has armor as well, and that's the highest amount of single damage that you can do in the game. It's the one, pretty much one of the strongest units in the game. So pretty good. And yeah, if you take purple L and someone like Dustin, you can easily charge up her ability straight away. So yeah, not bad, not bad. All right, let's go to the B list. And this is, well, B list, well, we'll start with Jonathan Byers. And this guy, well, his only last reactive is the one that is giving basically debuffs. He can give basically a random enemy weakness for 3 turns when a team member gains a debuff. Again, it's a pretty specific skill, and also it's a pretty only for one enemy, and it's random. So definitely not the best one you really want to have. Next up is Nancy. So this one, yeah, she damages. Actually, I don't know why she's on this list. She doesn't give, right? If that enemy has weakness or vulnerability, deal 200% damage to a random enemy and give it. Yeah, he can. She gives the debuff either weakness or vulnerability, but it's a really specific one. Like that enemy has to have either weakness or vulnerability, meaning that you already need to have somebody on your team like Dr. Alexey or I forgot the other guy's name on your team. So it's kind of like you need to have multiple people for her ability to activate, which is not that great. Obviously, you don't want to have that all the time. So that's why she goes on the B list. Next one is Joyce. So Joyce, if she's damaged by less than 50% health, she can give and if the enemy that's about to attack next turn, she can give weakness for 2 turns, which is okay. Again, B list, because it's only one enemy, it's very specific sort of debuff that she can give. The next one is Mike Wheeler. So this one, every wave, he can give a random enemy vulnerability for 4 turns. But then again, it's every wave. So sort of like in Club Boss, he's useless. And it's a random enemy. It's only one enemy, and it's not that great of an ability. So B tier for me. And the final one is Lucas Sinclair. And this guy, well, this guy, he give poison for 1 turn. Again, a very specific one, which is the last reactive skill. When an enemy with 30% or less health of its health is damaged by an ability, give a random low enemy health poison for 1 turn. It's a 1 enemy, 1 turn only, very specific, and honestly counts on the B list. So yeah, if you want to give debuffs, so the characters to choose from, you can choose Dustin Dart, Poison King Will is a good one, Awakening Queen Mick, which is I'm working on to upgrade right now, and Axel, sorry, the Vulnerability King. So these are the sort of the top units you want to have on your teams if you want to cast debuffs. So yeah, alright, this is pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys all in my next video.